Oh.
Hello, Deandra.
Hello, Dara.
I'm Dara, and this is Deandra, and welcome to the first edition of The Movie Mavens.
Welcome.
Today we're going to talk about Robin Hood, the 2010 version with Russell Crowe, directed by Ridley Scott.
And I promise I won't agree with everything you say.
Okay, good. I appreciate it. I appreciate the counterpoint. For me, when you go into a Ridley Scott, Russell Crowe film, like, you know that it's going to be good.
Yeah.
You expect it to be good. You know that the cinematography is going to be great, the direction is going to be great, the acting hopefully will be great, the action and everything is going to be top notch, and it was. I wasn't disappointed by that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I'm not really that familiar with the Robin Hood story, and so I went to this with fresh eyes. Of course, I know about the legend of Robin Hood, but I did not see the 1993 film with Kevin Costner. I didn't see the 38 film with Errol Flynn. I know all about the lore and all that stuff. I understand like what it's about, but for me this was like, it was a brand new experience. It wasn't like I was comparing it to anything.
Right.
And so I guess what kind of struck me is just some of the characters themselves were interpreted kind of from modern day sensibilities, and so I did notice like Maid Marian. She was like this, almost this feminist hero. She was like, you know, this really strong. I love Cate Blanchett. She's one of my favorite actresses. But I did feel like maybe they went a bit far to try and modernize the story.
Elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, you know, it's like Marmee and Little Women in 1994, the 1994 version with Winona Ryder, and she became so strong. It was like she was going on all these rants about how women shouldn't be, you know, doubled over with their corsets and fainting spells, and Marian was almost like, I don't know, she wasn't really feminine in any way. I mean, I did think she was a really beautiful, strong woman, but at the same time it was like, you know, she really should have been starring in her own movie. She was like, you know, Joan of Arc or something. It was just a little much for what I know of that character, you know, what the information I do have about the character. And then I did notice that the villains themselves they were all kind of dark-skinned. I noticed. It was like, okay, we're updating the story and we're trying to be super modern about it, and then we basically make the villains into terrorists. That's what I felt like. Prince or King John, he looked, I mean, I know he's a Guatemalan actor, but he looked in that role with just the beard and everything, he almost looked like he could have been, you know, an Arab. And then Godfrey, thank you. He almost had kind of that, you know, and it was almost like it's easier for us to think of those guys as the bad guys than it would have been to think of, you know, a more kind of waspy, I guess, looking actor playing those parts. So.
I see what you mean. I was going to add that the only version of Robin Hood that I had to compare this movie to is the Disney version.
Oh, okay.
And that's a cartoon.
Right. I haven't seen that one either.
Yeah, and so what kind of surprised me was that it didn't seem like the versions that I'm used to, that this seemed really different from that storyline. The storyline, you know, for example, that I've heard before is in King Richard, he's seen more as a hero or a good guy. I thought he was he was the king that was off on the Crusades in the movie, and then he died while he was out there. But in the other versions that I've seen, you know, it's like that. But in this movie, King Richard was more of a villain. It seemed like he was more of a hot-headed kind of figure. It seemed like, you know, he was killing people off for telling them the truth. It seemed, you know, or at least whipping them and punishing them. Right. So I thought that was different, the deviation in the storyline, but now I do have to say that I didn't even think about what you brought up about the whole modernizing. That's interesting.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me, and I wonder if they'll get called out on that at all. I really haven't read a whole lot of press surrounding the film or reviews or anything like that, but that was the first thing that caught my eye, and maybe I'm just kind of sensitive to those topics or something. Yeah. But, you know, I kind of hope that they do get called out on it a little bit, because I think it's, you know, it's 2010. I mean, why are we still kind of, you know, creating these sort of black and white images of what good and evil looks like. Like, we should kind of be beyond that. at this point.
I agree.
But you know, that being said, I think overall, like it was a good movie experience. It wasn't something I came out of thinking, you know, oh, that stank, and I'm not gonna, you know, go see any more Russell Crowe films. Not at all. I mean, he was really good in it, but. By the same token, it kind of put me in the mind of Gladiator a lot, and it sort of left me wistful for Gladiator.
Yeah.
Like I really, you know, I appreciated kind of the originality and the spirit of Gladiator more so after seeing this film. So that's probably not a good sign.
Okay.
It's not a good takeaway that you kind of wish that you were seeing some other film after you get through watching a film.
But I did want to say something about your point about Maid Marian. It was kind of, to me, it was a little bit refreshing to see a woman in that role where she was kind of taking care of her household, and she was just very stern about, you know, going after the things that, you know, she was trying to fight for.
Right.
I kind of like seeing Kate Blanchett in that role, but and I guess I didn't feel like it took away from her femininity. I felt like it was you know, it made her seem like more of a woman in some ways, but
I would have almost liked to see her in her own movie, like a Maid Marian movie or something. It was just almost like she didn't need him in this film. Like he should have been a secondary character or something. No, but I loved it, and I loved that she got up and took arms at the end. I mean, I loved it. I loved, you know, who she was, but it was like, okay, now are we kind of completely rewriting, you know, history or whatever, and these are fictional characters, but you know, there still is a long tradition of, you know, what we know about these characters, and you know, does this really fit, or are we kind of telling a completely different story? But overall, what were your impressions of the film? If there is a takeaway, we're the Mavens, so that means that you guys are the connectors. We pass along the information to you, and then you disseminate it to those in your social circle. The connector's charge for me would be, the upsides here are that it was a very well-made film, very well acted, top-of-the-line talent, cinematography was brilliant. There were some, the downsides that there were some cultural stereotypes that I wasn't particularly fond of, and I did not walk away from the film feeling like it was something I was going to remember, that I was going to hold on to. And as a matter of fact, I had to really kind of rack my brain even to be able to do the review on it, because I had almost forgotten a lot of it before I even left the theater. So not extremely memorable, but maybe you should wait for it on DVD if you really are a fan of the Robin Hood story.
My connector's charge. So I think that you know, some of the upsides, like Dara said, I thought the cinematography was good. You know, some of the downsides. You know, I'm really having trouble finding downsides to this film, because I really liked a lot of it. I liked the storyline, even though it was different than previous Robin Hood storylines that I've seen. And I really liked that particular line, because it was kind of like the lesson of the movie Rise Again until lions become lions. Yeah, I love that message. So.
Okay, well, that's the movie Mavens review. So connectors, take the information and pass it on.
Pass it on.